During an in-house competition, the new employee I was mentoring froze on stage. The presentation was delayed, and everyone in the room looked concerned. The data in the materials is. The data? Indeed, the numbers in the presentation were completely different from what I remembered. Hey, what's going on? Are you not prepared? One of the training staff couldn't hold back and spoke up. The rest of the employees began murmuring amongst themselves. Hey, there's only 5 minutes left. How could you make such a basic mistake with the data? You can't keep acting like you're still in school. Shouted at in a loud voice, she looked down, desperately trying to hold back her tears. I couldn't let this go on any longer. I stood up. Wait a minute. 5 minutes is plenty of time. I grabbed the laptop containing the original data and headed to the stage. Leave it to me. What happened next would turn out to be a pivotal moment for both me and the new employee. My name is Travis. I've been working at a printing company for about 7 years now, ever since I joined as a new graduate. My main job is to confirm printing orders and pass them on to the printing department. It's mostly routine work, and while there's a lot of it, it's fairly straightforward. I don't make any big mistakes, but I also don't have any notable achievements. In the company, I'm an unremarkable figure, neither excelling nor failing. It's almost impossible to stand out in a job that revolves around simple tasks. If I wanted to aim higher, I could request a transfer to the sales or development department during the biannual reviews, but I've stayed in the same department I was first assigned to, maintaining the status quo. Travis has been here a long time, right? Doesn't he ever get bored doing the same job? Theodore, our colleague from the same year, is already a manager, you know? Well, Theodore has been in the spotlight since he was a rookie. I mean, he graduated from Tokyo University, right? He's exactly the kind of elite this company wants. And where did Travis go to school again? I heard he didn't go to college. He graduated from an online high school. Oh, well, that explains a lot. I overheard this conversation from inside the women's restroom. What exactly does it explain? That I don't have ambitions because I went to an online high school? That I don't get bored doing the same job because of my educational background? I believe academic credentials have nothing to do with the quality of one's work, but I'm not skilled enough to say that with confidence. I'm okay with the way things are, and it's true I graduated from an online high school. But I don't remember doing anything bad enough to deserve being talked about like that, though, maybe in the eyes of my coworkers. My lack of contribution to the company is seen as a bad thing. But that's fine. Even if I went above and beyond in my work, nothing good would come of it. I pretended not to hear and walked past the restroom. The new fiscal year began, and a new group of employees joined the company. Among them was a strikingly beautiful woman. Her name was Rachel. With a smile as bright as a blooming flower, I figured she'd become popular in no time. But my prediction turned out to be completely wrong. During the months of training, I had a chance to work with her, and even with the simplest tasks I was doing, she took much longer than expected. She was thorough with her work, but that thoroughness cost her too much time. Under pressure from deadlines, she made mistakes over and over again. In short, she was inefficient. Even sorting tasks that came through the system or email was a challenge for her, and she quickly found herself isolated from the others. While the other new hires were efficiently handling both simple and advanced tasks, already proving useful as assistants to their senior colleagues, Rachel was still struggling with basic administrative work. Rachel was clearly being given the cold shoulder by her peers. I even overheard someone complaining, Why is a girl like her at this company? My friend didn't even get hired. While the other new employees left promptly at closing time for a group drink, Rachel stayed glued to her computer. When I asked if she wasn't joining them, she said they told her to come when she finished her work. By the time she stopped working, it was already 9 p.m. The gathering had surely ended by then. I couldn't help but think that the company atmosphere contributed to why this wasn't being called outright bullying. In meetings, our manager Theodore would say things like, "If you know you're not capable, you have to work harder than anyone else. If you can't contribute to the company, you're just a useless salary thief." Rachel's position in the company was becoming more and more uncomfortable. Putting this kind of pressure on someone who's still a rookie won't accomplish anything. Rather than motivating her to work harder, it would only sap her energy. I suspected Theodore's real goal wasn't to encourage Rachel, but to send a warning to the others: if you don't perform, you'll be treated like this too. At the same time, he was hyping up the other new employees, telling them, "You guys are doing great. Keep aiming for a quick promotion." I couldn't understand why she was being treated so harshly, especially as someone still in her first year. During lunch break, I invited her to join me for a meal. Since Rachel was temporarily assigned to my department for training, it didn't seem out of place, and I was relieved no one found it suspicious. "You look tired. Are you okay?" I asked, even though I knew she wasn't. It turned out her situation was more serious than I thought. "I never realized I was such a failure." Her voice trembled, as if she were about to cry, and I panicked. I hadn't expected her to be this distressed. Everyone in my cohort graduated from top universities, and I'm the only one who went to a third-rate school. I already felt that gap. But now that we're working, the difference is even more obvious. Everyone's making progress, while I just keep messing up. "You must be disappointed in me too, Travis." Her words were full of sincerity. At the same time, I wondered if she was judging herself too harshly. "Rachel, are you holding yourself back because of your educational background?" "What? People, at least in the real world, don't judge you by your academic background or your grades. They judge you on your skills and motivation. Your peers might have impressive academic records and be good with numbers or languages, but that's because they worked hard. Even now, they're studying and learning about the company. None of them are slacking off, right? Yeah. They're getting results because they're putting in the effort. I know you're working hard too, but maybe you've drawn a line in the sand. Telling yourself you're no good just because you went to a less prestigious school. You're right. I've always thought they were smarter than me and could do things I couldn't. I figured, what's the point? I'm never going to be as good as them anyway. Then, first, you need to have confidence in yourself. You're incredibly thorough. Whether it's reports, cleaning, or organizing data, everything you do is done with care. That's a great quality, but maybe you could find a better balance between quality and speed. Even if you cut a few corners, with your level of work, no one's going to complain. As I rambled on, I remembered how low my own evaluations were from my coworkers. Who am I to give advice, really? Well, I mean, that's just my opinion, for what it's worth. I hope it helps a little. To my surprise, Rachel's eyes sparkled as she looked at me. No, Travis, your advice was really helpful. I was so fixated on doing everything perfectly, no matter what. I realize now that balance is key. It seemed like something had clicked for her. From that point on, Rachel transformed. Her work efficiency improved dramatically. She started to ask questions about how to handle client interactions smoothly and how to organize documents, absorbing new information and turning it into valuable experience. She wasn't slacking off because of her academic background. She simply didn't know the right direction to focus her efforts. Even her peers seemed to have a slight change of heart, starting to ask her for help or relying on her for certain tasks. From my perspective, it looked like she was gradually building smoother relationships with her colleagues. About a month later, Rachel invited me to lunch. "Thanks to you, I've been able to connect with my peers and even get praised by the senior staff." As she bowed her head, thanking me, I smiled and replied, "That's great to hear. I didn't do anything special. You're the one who worked hard. No, if it weren't for your advice, I'd still be stuck. You reached out and showed concern when I needed it most. You really saved me." It felt a bit over the top, but I was genuinely happy that I could be the one to give her that push. I'm just glad it helped. Keep up the good work. I'll be rooting for you. Thank you. Also, Rachel placed a few documents on the table after finishing her meal. It was the announcement for the in-house competition. Twice a year, employees can submit proposals in any genre, on any topic, giving everyone a chance to participate. For new employees, this competition is one of their key assignments, and the results of their performance often determine their official department assignment. It's essentially a stage for them to showcase the culmination of their training. Would you be willing to join me? Me? Yes. The guidelines say that participation doesn't have to be solo. Of course, I'll handle the proposal and presentation, since it's part of my training. But I would love to get your advice. I'm not sure I'd be much help. I think there are other, more dependable seniors from different departments you could ask. So, are you saying you don't want to participate? Oh no, it's not that. I'm just saying it for your sake. This is your chance to show off all your hard work, and I don't want to interfere. It's thanks to your advice that I've changed so much. Please don't put yourself down. Put myself down, huh? Rachel used to say, I'm not good enough, too. And now, I realize I'm doing the same thing she once did. After lecturing her on not giving up, here I am, hesitating when it's my turn. That's pretty convenient of me, isn't it? As I was mulling it over, a voice interrupted from above. Well, isn't this an interesting pair? It was Theodore. We ran into each other often in the employee cafeteria. But today, he looked at us with a smug grin. Then again, maybe it's not that surprising. You two losers are a perfect match. His words made me bristle. I'd been ridiculed by him countless times, so it's nothing new. But dragging Rachel into it was a different story. It's fine if you insult me, but saying that about Rachel as her superior isn't appropriate. You should think twice before demotivating a new employee like that. You're in management, after all. The words I'd been holding back for so long finally spilled out, and Theodore's face immediately twisted in anger. What? A nobody like you, talking back to me? What gives you the right? If someone's useless, I'll call them useless. It's the truth, isn't it? I'm just saying, you could find a better way to say it. You don't even try to see how hard she's working. Shut up. You, of all people, don't get to lecture me. His outburst silenced the entire cafeteria, and all eyes turned toward us. Realizing he was the center of attention, Theodore clicked his tongue and stormed off. As the noise of the cafeteria gradually returned, Rachel bowed her head to me. Thank you for standing up for me. Don't worry about it. I just said what I thought. You keep doing your best, just like always. I will. But why is Theodore so harsh? I don't mean that being strict is wrong, but Rachel struggled to find the right words. I could tell she wanted to say something about Theodore's bias against people with less prestigious academic backgrounds or those he deemed unworthy. Well, I guess it's true I'm not the most capable person. From his point of view, I must be full of flaws, so I'm probably just a nuisance to him. That's not true. You've been the one looking out for me the most since I joined. You don't have any flaws in my eyes. Thank you, Rachel. You're kind. It makes me so mad. I hate hearing people talk about you like that. She clenched the documents in her hand tightly. Please. Let's enter the competition together. I want to prove them wrong, the ones calling us useless. I was taken aback by her determination. With such a passionate junior looking to me for support, I couldn't just brush her off. All right, I'll help you as much as I can. Let's give it our best shot. Yes. Thank you so much. From that moment, I worked alongside Rachel, supporting her as we prepared for the competition together. The task that new employees are expected to present in the competition is the development of a new project proposal. I gathered the results of past competitions, along with successful projects and products, and handed them over to Rachel. She meticulously reviewed them to see if her own ideas would be a good fit for the company. I may not have much ambition or any standout skills, but I do have experience. I supervised the material she prepared, offered corrections and advice, and even helped her practice for the presentation. Other new employees were also working hard with the support of their respective mentors. Of course, regular employees, myself included, were also preparing for the competition while managing our daily tasks. Rachel frequently stayed late into the night, exhausted but never complaining or showing signs of weakness. She was determined, focusing all her energy on the competition. Seeing her dedication, I did everything I could to support her. But there was always someone ready to undermine our efforts. It was Theodore. No matter how hard you try, the result will be a disaster. As we were in the middle of our meeting, Theodore approached us. He was already wearing a smug, victorious grin as he looked down on us. I'm participating in the competition as well. It's a shame you two have to compete against my proposal. No matter how much effort you put in, you'll never even come close to mine. Before Rachel could respond, I stepped forward. The judges, not you, will decide the outcome. Insulting us won't get you anywhere. What? Do you even realize your situation? A loser with a low education level and a graduate from a third-rate university are foolish enough to compete against me. You'd be better off withdrawing. We're not withdrawing. This is Rachel's assignment, after all. And if anything, your attitude has only fueled our motivation. Right, Rachel? With a smile, she nodded enthusiastically. Theodore's taunts didn't affect us. We knew how hard we were working and how good our proposal was. We had no reason to care about the sneers from someone who had no idea what we were doing. Pathetic losers who don't know when to quit. You'll regret it later, acting all tough now. Theodore muttered under his breath as he walked out into the hallway. I hope that's the last we hear from him. Travis, thank you again. I'll work even harder to make sure we beat Theodore. That's the spirit. In reality, I wasn't sure if we could beat someone as intelligent and experienced as Theodore, especially given his position as a department head. But the result wasn't what mattered most to Rachel. Learning how to develop a proposal, present it effectively, and be inspired by others. These experiences will help her grow and contribute to her future success. And when that happens, it will be her true victory. Oh, by the way, Rachel, about this calculation here. Pushing thoughts of Theodore aside, I resumed our meeting. Finally, the day of the competition arrived. It was held in the large conference room from the early morning. Rachel was the last of the new employees to present. Each participant had 10 minutes, and everyone's presentations were impressive, showcasing their hard work and preparation. Though Rachel was visibly nervous, I was confident that after all the practice, she would be fine. Her name was called, and she walked up to the stage, albeit a bit awkwardly, while I sat at the laptop below, ready to control the slides. My role was to change the visuals on the screen in sync with her presentation. As she raised the final set of printed materials we had prepared just the night before, her eyes widened in shock. She started flipping through the pages rapidly, as if she was seeing them for the first time. The presentation still hadn't started, and the employees were beginning to look concerned. "Rachel, what's wrong?" I whispered quietly. She snapped out of her daze and glanced at me. "The data in the materials is..." "The data?" I quickly opened the document in front of me and scanned through it as well. As I scanned through the documents, the sales figures and forecast numbers were completely different from what I remembered. "What is this?" Just to be sure, I checked the presentation materials that were meant to be projected on the screen. The numbers were off there too. Had we failed to save the data correctly? Was it a mistaken input, or maybe a system error? No, now wasn't the time to figure out why. I quickly opened my own folder. While we didn't have the finalized presentation data, I still had the raw data files where the original calculations had been made. It wasn't the presentation version, but the foundational data was there. However, it was just a long list of numbers in groups, unprocessed and without any proper formatting. Columns of 6-digit numbers, grouped in various ways, filled the screen. "What's going on? Are you not ready?" The training supervisor couldn't stay silent any longer and called out to Rachel. Other employees began murmuring as well. The data, it's wrong." "The data? Didn't you check it beforehand?" "No." "Do you have a backup?" "No." "I don't," Rachel answered honestly, and a collective sigh rippled through the room. Based on what they just heard, it was easy to assume she hadn't prepared properly. It might seem like an unbelievable mistake, but this is exactly when a mentor or supervisor should step in with advice, saying something like, "Make sure to be prepared next time." I couldn't understand why everyone was acting so exasperated. Then again, I was partly to blame for not checking things myself. Instead of focusing on my own tasks right before the presentation, I should have been there to help her. So now, it's on me to fix this. There are only 5 minutes left. How could you make such a basic mistake? You can't keep acting like you're still in school. Theodore's harsh voice echoed through the room, causing Rachel to shrink in fear. This is a waste of time. Just stop already. With that, everyone started flipping to the next presentation in their materials. Rachel, now completely dejected, was holding back tears. This couldn't be how things ended. I stood up. "Wait. 5 minutes is more than enough," I announced. I grabbed the laptop containing the original data and stood next to Rachel. Then, I pulled a whiteboard from the side of the room. "Leave it to me." Let's present together. I'll calculate the data and explain it as we go. Ha! Everyone, we apologize for the delay. Due to some data issues, we'll be presenting using this whiteboard. I gave Rachel a reassuring look, and she nodded, quickly picking out the key points she needed to cover within the remaining time. Meanwhile, I glanced at the numbers on the screen. These weren't simple addition or subtraction calculations. There was no time to enter formulas into Excel. Mental math would be faster. As soon as we got to the data portion, I stepped in and began writing numbers on the whiteboard. Here's the sales through last year, the expected projections, and the satisfaction rates for our orders. I quickly summarized the key numbers, calculating in my head and jotting them down on the board. My handwriting wasn't the best, but I hoped they'd overlook that. As Rachel mentioned earlier, we considered the requests to increase the types of printing paper. After comparing the prices of 30 different types and analyzing the difference in sales revenue, we found that, hey, is Travis doing mental math right now? No way. Calculating those numbers instantly is impossible, right? But he's looking at the screen and writing down the numbers as he goes. I could hear the murmurs around me, but I was calm. These calculations were simple for me. And that's the basis of our data. Rachel, I'll leave the closing to you. Yes. I see great potential in this project, and it's something that can be accomplished with everyone's combined efforts. For example, Samuel, who is skilled in languages and holds certifications, could contribute greatly to the translation service aspect. Ha! Me? Samuel was caught off guard, surprised to hear his name mentioned. Yvonne has an incredible talent for design, and I believe she could greatly help in creating templates for posters. Me? Rachel went on to explain which colleagues' skills could help bring her project to life and how their strengths aligned with the proposal. She had clearly observed those around her, recognizing their strengths and seeing the good in people. And she had a clear vision of how to utilize those strengths to bring her ideas to life. She outlined her case, presenting it confidently within the limited time. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for your attention. As Rachel and I bowed, the applause we received was louder and more heartfelt than before. The room erupted with energy, and Rachel looked shocked by the reaction. I, on the other hand, had expected it, but I kept my thoughts to myself and simply told her, "Good job." After all the new employees finished their presentations, it was time for the competition among the existing staff. Theodore went first, presenting a proposal that, while a bit far-fetched, was profit-driven and typical of him. It wasn't bad. Under normal circumstances, his plan would likely have been chosen. However, during the final evaluations, the executives decided that they wanted to further refine Rachel's proposal. Rachel's expression was one of disbelief, while her peers congratulated her. It's rare for someone to achieve such a result in their first competition. The other employees would surely see her in a new light now. But just as the celebratory mood was settling in, Theodore shattered it. "This is ridiculous. How could a rookie's dumb proposal get approved?" Theodore stood up, raising his voice. Everyone froze, staring at him. The whole data failure was just staged. There's no way anyone could do those calculations that fast. It's all a sham. A fraud. It's absurd that these two idiots were chosen. He pointed directly at the executives, accusing them of making the wrong decision. And anyway, Travis here didn't even graduate from a regular high school, he's from an online high school. He's incompetent. There's no way someone like him could do those calculations instantly. Theodore's argument was nonsensical, but it was clear he was trying to discredit me in order to push his own agenda. I sighed, ready to respond and dismantle his baseless claims, but before I could, Rachel stood up. Travis isn't incompetent. In fact, he's the smartest, most capable person in this company. I was shocked. I never expected her to speak up for me like that. What? There's no way Travis is capable. You're just trying to defend someone who's been nice to you. Excuse me, but may I ask, Theodore, what's your IQ? My IQ? Have you ever had it measured? I haven't either. The average IQ of a Japanese person is around 112, but Travis's IQ is far above that. I've heard it's 200. I've seen the certification myself. 200. That's impossible. He's just making that up. Theodore. It was Kevin, our department head, who had remained silent until now, speaking in a calm voice. What Rachel said is true. I saw Travis's certification when I interviewed him. So, it's true. Yes, my IQ is indeed 200. From a young age, I was ahead of my peers in both language and math, a genius, they said. I was often called a prodigy, praised for my abilities. I was even reading English before starting elementary school, something that was unheard of for kids my age. Had I been raised abroad, I might have skipped grades and entered college early, but as a child, I found everything around me dull and uninspiring. School lessons were completely meaningless to me. I had already been studying high school level material on my own, and my classmates seemed immature, with nothing in common to talk about. I wanted someone to discuss recent economic trends, global affairs, or space engineering, things I was genuinely interested in. But all they cared about was playing tag or card games. Frankly, I was disgusted. Naturally, I didn't make any friends. If no one could reach my level, then being around them was pointless. With that mindset, I moved on to middle school. And there, too, I found myself isolated. I thought that by middle school, people would recognize my talent and try to keep up with me. But their level remained low, or so I believed. Until one day, I had a realization. Sure, I might be smarter than most. But emotionally, I was no more mature than they were. My attitude of looking down on others had pushed people away. Why would anyone want to be friends with someone like that? There was another boy in my class who was bright, not as much as me, but still one of the top students, and he was friendly with everyone. The problem wasn't them. It was my warped personality. Still, even after realizing that, I didn't feel the need to make friends. Being around people who couldn't engage with me on the same intellectual level only caused frustration. I grew tired of interacting with others and decided not to attend the prestigious private school I had been accepted to. School was bound to be boring no matter where I went. I eventually stopped leaving the house altogether, but my parents gently encouraged me, saying that at the very least, graduating from high school would be beneficial for my future. They were right, I couldn't continue living aimlessly. I could tell how worried they were, so I reluctantly enrolled in a nearby correspondence high school. At that school, many students worked during the day and attended classes at night. They were all working hard to earn money during the day. Some were saving up for their dreams. Others worked to support their families. Some had health issues that prevented them from attending regular schools. I met people from all walks of life, with different backgrounds and values. Surrounded by people like that, I came to realize that I was just someone who was smart. I couldn't do household chores, and I had no dreams. I had no one I wanted to cherish, and no special skills. I was just like everyone else. While I could do things they couldn't, there were many things they could do that I couldn't. My IQ score of 200, which I earned in middle school, was just one part of who I was. Finally, my thinking began to mature, and I started connecting with my classmates. I had worried about whether I could even hold a conversation with them, but the truth was, I was just a smart kid who lacked real-life experience. I was shocked when I realized I couldn't keep up with the conversations of people who actually had jobs. And it made me realize that I wasn't any different from everyone else, leading me to regret my past attitude. After high school, I joined this company, vowing never to boast about my IQ again. I submitted my IQ certification during the company interview as part of the qualifications, but there was no need to mention it to other employees. I'm just smart. Showing off wouldn't bring me any benefit. I didn't want to make the same mistake as in my school days, looking down on others and isolating myself. So, I limited how much I revealed of my abilities. Being merely smart, I never stood out at the company, and I was fine with that. But as I began mentoring Rachel, I slowly started to embrace my individuality again. Because she made an effort to understand my opinions and way of thinking, meeting me halfway. Even when I used my abilities, I knew there was someone by my side. That fact gave me confidence. During one of our casual conversations, Rachel found out about my IQ score, but she treated me no differently. You've mocked Travis over and over again, but the truth is, he's the most capable person here. Please stop making derogatory remarks about him. Rachel's face turned bright red from embarrassment after her bold statement. What did you say? A rookie like you, being so arrogant. And furthermore, Rachel interrupted Theodore's words. My presentation data. I'm certain the numbers were correct until yesterday. Travis checked them as well. So, I believe someone intentionally altered the data. And if I may be so bold, I think that someone was you, Theodore. The room buzzed with whispers. Theodore slammed his fist on the table, his anger evident. Do you even realize what you're saying? Trying to pin your mistake on me? I've never seen someone so foolish. I've seen you tampering with other people's materials multiple times. What? I was afraid to speak up before. I worried I might have been mistaken, and I didn't want to make things worse for myself. But this time, I'm the one affected, so I'm speaking out. Theodore's temples were bulging with anger, or so it seemed, until he suddenly began acting nervous and fidgety. Where's your proof? If you're lying, I'll sue you for defamation. Unfortunately, I don't have past evidence, but I believe the data was altered this morning. We can ask the IT department to check the usage and access logs, and they should confirm it. Kevin. Fire her immediately for such outrageous claims. She's a disgrace to this company. Theodore, sit down. Rachel, you too. Kevin's calm voice brought both of them to their seats. Theodore opened and closed his mouth like he had more to say, but no words came out. As for Rachel's accusation, we'll have IT verify it. However, it's a fact that Rachel's proposal outperformed yours, Theodore. The competition is over. Everyone, return to your work. With that decisive command, people began to gather their things and leave the conference room. Theodore remained seated, slumped over. Half a day later, the IT department reported their findings. As expected, there was a record of Theodore accessing Rachel's data. Additionally, there were traces of him accessing another presenter's data. Fortunately, the individuals noticed just before their presentation, so it didn't disrupt their work. With no way to deny his actions, Theodore was demoted to a regular employee but quickly chose to resign. He was also ordered to pay damages to the company. A former colleague who had been close to Theodore told me that he had been under immense pressure. Graduating from a prestigious university and becoming a manager at a young age had placed heavy expectations on him from family and friends. He had confided during a drinking session that the only way to survive in the company was to bring others down. In a way, Theodore reminded me of my younger self. I couldn't help but feel a bit of sympathy for him, hoping he would reflect on his actions and recover. On the other hand, Rachel's proposal was officially adopted by the company, and I was appointed as the project leader to bring it to life. Rachel's peers had fully accepted her by now, and I often saw her having lunch or drinks with them. Just as she had seen the strengths in others, now the people around her were starting to recognize her talents. About a year later, the new project was a resounding success. Rachel grew tremendously, becoming someone everyone around her had high expectations for. She took on new projects and delivered impressive results, eventually becoming known as the fastest rising employee among her peers. Though she humbly credited her success to the support of others, it was undoubtedly her own ability that led to her achievements. Even now, she graciously seeks my advice. She asked me how to navigate her role while also taking on management responsibilities. By then, I had already been promoted to department head, so she sought my advice. As I continued supporting Rachel, I gradually learned to fully utilize my own abilities at work. These days, I no longer look down on those who struggle. Instead, I delegate tasks I can't handle and ensure the company runs smoothly with a balanced approach. Those in leadership positions will naturally attract envy, but remember, they aren't your enemies. Try to understand others' perspectives and become someone who can meet them halfway. I'm working on that too, I told her, reflecting on my own life experiences. Recognizing others and accepting yourself. It sounds simple but is incredibly difficult to do. However, once you can do that, the collective energy of each individual can become a force that achieves far more than any one person could alone. I wish I could tell my younger self that I couldn't do everything alone. But it was because of those past mistakes that I've grown into who I am today. I believe that nothing in life is wasted. To make the rest of my life more meaningful, I want to live alongside others and find happiness together with them. That is my goal now.